Halfway down, halfway to go. A collection of tricky circuits in the first 6 races will see no relief, with technical, short, and punishing tracks filling up almost the entire season. Zandvoort, even with its updated layout, is a finicky thing for these old F1 cars. Can points leader Nieva continue his stride? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes, our director Dan Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dr. Beard. It's not just runoff areas and paddock buildings that got updated when F1 returned to Zandvoort. Let's check out some of the fascinating new additions to the track with our guide. Welcome to Circuit Park Zandvoort. This legendary track, directly to the west of Amsterdam and a stone's throw away from the shore of the North Sea, has seen more than half a century of racing history. After a brief period of being closed, it was rebuilt in the 90s and then given a huge facelift in 2019 to see the return of Formula One. It retained its 4.25-kilometer length and 14 turns for the Grand Prix course, while the other 3 versions also stayed mostly unchanged. But the biggest adaptations were the additions of steep banking in Hugenholtz and Luijendijk. The unusual progressive banking in Hugenholtz in particular stands out as it brings the oval racing staple to the twisty side of motorsports and has produced action-packed results. Meanwhile, Luijendijk's new camber means that this corner is now easily flat out in pretty much every car and gives even better chances to try and overtake into the famous Tarzan. That said, passing is notoriously difficult at this highly technical track. And while it's much slower than its original guise, it still has some frighteningly fast corners, including Schieveland. If you're brave, the Hans Ernst chicane can sometimes offer chances to sneak by someone, but it can often become a clumsy wreck if you're not careful. The amounts of cash poured into the upgrades certainly produce more than just a fresh coat of paint. The spectacular racing put on by everything from open-wheelers to touring cars and sports cars is almost never dull. It's no wonder the Dutch fans come out in droves when the green flag waves here. Well, there we see what fantastic new additions they've had here, Joey, and honestly, I like them. I like the new banking that they put in.
I think it is such a cool racetrack, the beach town of Zandvoort here, and this track map is quite interesting when you really get down to it. 13 turns, 2.67 miles in length, and when we're talking about passing opportunities, it's pretty much into turn 1, known as Tarzan down there. That's your biggest and best passing opportunity. The turn 3 and 4 area, that's the repaved oval banking section, so watch for several different multiple lines through there. You're going to see drivers go down to the low side. Some keep it all the way up top to try to slingshot that corner exit, but then the rest of the track, incredibly technical, a little bit more of a slower to medium speed section through the middle. And I think with these 49s, there's plenty of slow speed corners. Don't worry about the lockup going in, but I'm more concerned about putting your right foot down coming out.
Yeah, that's for sure. So let's take a look at where the championship sits, because as we said, we're halfway through the season. Now, up at the top, Jorge Nieva, as I mentioned, is our points leader, but Tixier was not there for the last race at Bristol, and he has taken a win both at the Nürburgring and Misano, so he's on good form when he is here. Nieva has had a couple of wins himself, but it's, as always, his consistency that's helping him. Togo Hisada, though, scored a little bit more points than Nieva back at Bristol, so he cut into it, but it is still about 15 or so points between first and third, so it could all change around. Now, down in the Formula 2 championship, Jonathan Jourdain pulled an interesting one. F2 driver took an overall win at Bristol, and that helped him out tremendously as that shoots him up to the points lead. Kurt Clapper behind by 5 points between them, with Jan Steffen just about 20 points back from our leader up at the top. So it is extremely close at the very top of things, but Jourdain's win definitely had a big change on that one. Now, over in the Nations Cup, It is Spain currently leading, no surprises there, over Singapore. That's our top two, with Tixier and Nieva contributing a lot of points. But then you get down to third, and it's the United Kingdom who has now put themselves into that third position for the Nations Cup. So keep your eyes on this space. It's all to play for, Joey. And why don't you run through today's race details?
You had mentioned we are halfway here in this season, just over round 7 of 12. 20 laps is what we're going to be doing around Zandvoort here. An open setup, as it always is every single week here in the Grand Prix Legends Series. So go tweak and tune on that car. You need a little bit more front end grip. We'll open up that setup page. Go to the Discord, go to the community. They love sharing what the fast stuff is every single week. They want everybody to be up to speed. No spare cars, so if you pick up any damage, well, you got to live with it out there on the racetrack. Drive-through penalty at 17x, disqualification at 25 incident points, and there's not really a whole lot of runoff here at Zandvoort, Joe. There's lots of gravel, but in the high-speed sections, those guardrails are pretty close.
Absolutely. It's going to be treacherous if you wind up going off course at speed around here, because these things carry the momentum very, very well. Now, we are in the midst of qualifying right now, and it looks like Hisada is ahead of Arturas Kundelis. Glad to see him back in the Vintage Series, but hopping over from what is usually the IMSA Vintage cars. So going from sports cars to open wheelers, as there is Nieva trying to, I think, set a time. Doesn't look like he's got one on the board yet.
No, I do see that maybe he has completed a lap, but it did not count from what I'm seeing out here. And I think the other one that I'm waiting for to put down is Nicola Kaki, as he actually just crosses the line. Nicola goes up to P2 as Togo Hisada resets the fast lap. Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado into P3. The board shuffling around quite a bit.
Still got half a lap to go for Nieva, so he's got to make this one count. Will he have to start from the back at a track where track position is very, very important? Kevin Verbruggen currently sitting in 6th. Great qualifying for him. Is not going to be improved as he slows it down off the final corner, and apparently not happy with that second lap. What about Torres? His first one also got deleted. Second one is going to count. It's a 38.6, and that is good enough for 21st.
We'll have about a handful of people yet to qualify. Matthew Maudsley is one of them, has not put down a lap time yet. This is kind of smack right in the middle of the racetrack, call it Sector 2, and I think this is a little bit of a trickier area, especially with these older 49s, the older tires. You really have to be gentle trying to get the front end into the corner, and then it doesn't stop there. These corners are so long, you have to be extremely patient on the back half of it as well.
Nieva put a lap down, and it's good enough for third. Now, I've double-checked, and I think that is actually his first lap. I don't think he had set one before this, so he's still got another go-round to improve, but he's got to make up 0.8 of a second to take the pole.
And that does make sense. Typically, Jorge uses that strategy in qualifying as Matthew Maudsley rounds out turn number 12. This is the final turn right here. Turn 13, the steep banking to lead it out onto the front straightaway here. Let's see what time Matthew is able to put down as he crosses the line right here. 136.950. It's going to jump him up into 12th place.
That was one that he needed because his first lap was deleted. So 16 car up into 12th position. We check out with Nieva, who does have enough time to complete this lap. It'll come down to the last few seconds, mind you, but that's all he needs, although that may have deleted the lap right there as he went wide, and yeah, he's going slow. So that's going to be it for the number 1 machine. He'll do no better than third.
I think David Rossi might still be out on the racetrack as Jorge Nieva is going to bring it back in. I don't think that Rossi is going to have time to finish this lap, though, because got about 22 seconds left in qualifying, and I just don't see this happening. So I think that he's going to have to keep his P17 spot.
Yeah, you're right. That's too far back. So we got 3 drivers that failed to set a time here in quali. Going to be starting from the back of the field of a group of 27 going to be competing here today to start the second half of the season, and the home of racing in the Netherlands at Zandvoort. Let's go through our starting grid, starting with Togo Hisada. managing to put himself on pole. Remember, he needs that to try and climb forward and fight for the championship here. Nicola Kaki is going to be starting second next to him. Jorge Nieva will be P3, as Gary Ho will start from fourth. Marco Salgado, P5, excellent for him. Arturas Kundalis will be starting from sixth. Then it's Kevin Verbruggen in the seventh spot. JDS will be P8. Let's hope he stays out of trouble at the start on this one. Kurt Clapper, ninth, and Connor Tolman rounds out your top 10.
The 11th spot, we got Blake Bottoms, a new name there, and then Matthew Maudsley in 12th, Roberto Pengrazi in 13th, Yuri Geese, and haven't read that name in a little while, in 14th, Alan Graham in 15th, Bjorn Ackerman 16th, David Rossi in 17th, Michael Grissinger in 18th, Cam Porter lined up 19th, and Robert Plumley in 20th.
Then down in 21st, it's Madsen, Harnvey, Jin, Torres, Dorn, Linden, and Wilhausen. Looks like they're going to start pretty early here as the cars are now revving up. The lights are up, and the green flag is out. Nieva does not go anywhere, unfortunately. He's getting swamped at the start. Salgado tries to pass him, but then is a little bit more timid under the brakes. Kundalis looks like he is going to sneak through, so that'll send him down to fifth. But up at the front, Hisada will hold on to the lead.
Now it gets busy. Look at this turn 2, 3, 4 section. This is the heavy banking. Who's going to dive down to the bottom? Verbruggen holds it right in the middle. You see the number 14 car of Connor Tolman. He's going to try to ride that high side around. It does provide you a nice slingshot on the exit.
Verbruggen manages to hold on to eighth. He already lost one position from the start of this one. You could see how quickly they need to get single file at this track. It is so twisty and winding back and forth constantly before now they head into the newer section here, coming through the infield, down into the back and forth hairpins.
This is riding on board with Jorge Nieva. He slipped down a couple positions at the start. Right in front of him, Arturas Kundalis, who did the opposite. He's moved up a few and now just trying to capitalize on the cars right in front of him. It's Gary Ho in the third place, also with a great start in that purple helmet.
What an opportunity is this for Hisada. I mean, he doesn't have Tixier here this week, and now his other rival that he's trying to catch has had a bad start, as you can see. Somewhat warm track, not outrageously so, at about 98 Fahrenheit or 37 Celsius. Still, Nieva set his mind on trying to get those positions back almost right away. He is all over Kundalis.
And look at Nieva there, like you were saying, he's just right on the back of that bright green car. Terrific run down the front straightaway. Let's see, does he make a move into turn 1 Tarzan corner? It is so difficult here. You see him not quite up alongside, but the number 4 car runs a little bit wide. That's going to open the door for Nieva on the exit. And uh-oh, Cam Porter's turned around on the front straightaway.
Now that's after the final corner, so I'm not sure if he hit anything, but usually you don't have small accidents there. It looks like he is able to keep going. David Rossi side by side coming through Gerlach and into Hugenholz. This is that progressively banked corner, and he uses that progressive banking to great effect. He shot past Graham.
After watching several of the updated Zandvoort races, especially with these vintage cars, I do believe that the best line around turn number 3 up there is the high line. It's so inviting to go in the middle or go down low if somebody's checking you up, but the corner exit and where it leads to on track, that's the most important part.
We saw that illustrated quite well there. We've got a replay. Let's see what happened to Porter coming through the banked Lyondike final turn, and he spins it. Does he stay out of the wall? Wow, that's actually impressive.
Nicely done, and I can only assume that maybe some cold tires, and he was kind of drifting up in the middle of the racetrack. Maybe the thing just got loose underneath him as we check back in on Nieva. He still hasn't gotten by Arturas Kundalis there in that bright lime green car, but the one thing that I'm noticing, Gary Ho is actually starting to run away, so if Jorge Nieva wants to salvage some points today, he's got to get a move on.
Absolutely. Not only Gary, but Kaki and Hisada also gapping the field up at the front. Nieva is losing time hand over fist in these first few laps. He's going to poke his nose underneath down through Tarzan, but still not enough there. Kundalis is playing a great defense.
And we say he's got to get a move on. He went way wide last lap, and once again, halfway into the green, all the way up top. I love seeing it. Look at how close he's able to get that acceleration. He actually has to check up before he runs over Kundelis right in front of him, but we are working lap 3. I think that Jorge would be plenty happy with a second place today, so maybe he's going to play a little bit more of the patient, smart game, which we know that's the exact type of driver he is.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, he takes what's on offer, and if it's damage limitation, so be it. Right now, though, he's got to try and get rid of some of the damage that has been done on this race since the start, as they'll switch back now, coming towards the back stretch. This is one of the other longest straights, but not quite straight. Look at how it curves as it crests over the hill here.
I loved seeing those two drivers go through those series of corners there. I was talking about the turn 9 and 10 corners as Kundelis goes off a little bit. I think the banking's going to save him. He got lucky right there. Got away with a mistake going into that turn 11 and 12 brake zone, but maybe that's just a sign of the pressure that Nieva is applying to that car.
He's lucky he didn't get a cut course penalty going over the inside like that, but this allows a good slipstream down the main straight as Nieva, once again, going to look down to the inside. If he can outbrake him, he might have an opportunity. He gets the overlap this time. He's given space down at the bottom by Kundelis, but Kundelis, again, shooting off the high side. Now they come into Gerlach. Wheel to wheel through here is a tricky proposition, and it's going to give the valued outside to Nieva.
So now that Nieva has got some clean air, let's see how quickly he catches that purple number 7 of Gary Ho, because he's about 1.1 seconds behind that battle. As we check in on Kevin Verbruggen, he's right behind Jack David Spickett here in that number 5 car. Right in front of him is Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado. So this is a nice little battle brewing here in the top 10.
So for reference for our audience, Togo Hisada's fastest lap is a 35 flat. Nieva's right now is a 36 flat, so a full second difference. Now that Nieva's been freed up a little bit, what are we going to see out there on track? Continue to watch this fight for 7th place as Jack David Spickett has a mirror full of the number 6 orange machine. In fact, no wonder it's orange. Benelux driver, they do love to have that wherever they go, representing their country, and he's right on top of him. Despite a little hiccup from Jack, he still can't find a way through.
And typically JDS, we see him more in the 79s, and the biggest difference between the 49s and the 79s is the aero grip, right? They got front and rear wings as well as tunnels, so I think Jack David Spickett coming over here and racing these 49s, it's great for kind of the P's and Q's of racing. You got to have a car that moves around. You got to drive something else. You can't just get stuck in one lane.
He does a great job whenever we see him show up. So back to Gary Ho now. And Nieva's already gotten past, my goodness. And in fact, he improved his fastest lap by half a second, 35.5. And that was with 2 overtakes.
Pretty impressive. So now he really is set free to go chase down the podium, Gaki and Hisada up front as we get this awesome view from inside of Gary Ho's sim rig. I love these views. I love analyzing what everybody's rig is, and I think that Gary's rig is so gosh dang cool. We were pointing out the Win Sim, the motion rig, the VR, even the old school Lotus steering wheel. It's all period correct from what I see.
I love the button box. I'm very jealous of that. I mean, look at that. All the switches and doodads that he could ever want to try and control things. Now, granted, this car didn't have all those in it, as it was a lot more analog, but even still, I guess for all the various things in sim racing you might need, those are valuable. So Gary Ho can try and hold on to the back of Nieva now that he is going to see if he can catch up to Kaki and Hisada.
And did you see this thing as Gary went over the curbs? Now, we used to see the motion rigs just kind of move around a little bit, and it's come so far, and I noticed him really bang over those turn 10, 11, 12 curbs, and that thing just went crazy over there. So that's got to be a real experience for sure with the VR helmet on and all of it.
Absolutely, although I wouldn't want to get knocked around too much with that thing, but as we watched him come around, Tarzan, Nieva, this time by 35.4. So again, he is improving, but that's only about a 10th quicker. And right now, Hisada is matching him, as we've had a problem for Bjorn Ackerman. Unfortunately, another Dutch driver finds himself in trouble, and he actually ends his race.
I'm not sure what happened to him. Just pulled off in turn 1 as this gaggle of cars goes through turn number 3. The red car, David Rossi, who we're looking at, he's got a terrific run on Robert Plumley. Just through this section of racetrack, it's really difficult to get anything done without cooperation. And trust me, if you're the car in front, you got your foot to the floor looking at the next apexes. You might get a look at exactly what happened. I think this is the number 15 car of Julio Torres. This is in Tarzan, turn number 1, a little bit too much speed, and then actually hooked it into that inside concrete wall.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's another one of the new aspects, because they didn't have that before down at the bottom of that corner, but you can't get a little too close to it. Is back to Jack David Spickett once again, ahead of Verbruggen, and that's Marco Salgado just in front of him. Now it's becoming a 3-car battle, and instead, this is for 6th position.
Them out onto the front straightaway. You see that these 49s, I'm actually pretty surprised, Joe. Have you noticed how close they've been getting through that turn 14 wall? I was expecting it to be easy flat and just kind of drive through it, but it looks like these cars are actually understeering quite a bit through there.
Yeah, I wonder, how much of that is a setup that a lot of these drivers are sharing, and how much of it is just unavoidable in this car. It wasn't really made for banked racing, even though, as we saw last week, they're happy to do that with them. But it certainly seems to be a bit of a handful, which doesn't surprise me too much, because I know how powerful this machine is. It takes a lot to send it flat out through any corner.
It also just shows us that Cam Porter, that spin early on, it's not just kind of a one-and-done thing. There's drivers all throughout the field that are struggling with that turn 14 corner. And this 3-pack right here, it's been Salgado, JDS, and Kevin Verbruggen, but they've actually been faster than the few cars right in front of them, so they closed it up. And so now it's just kind of a 5-car battle for what is inside kind of the top 5, top 7, as got another, call it 3, 4, 5-car battle just outside of the top 10 as well.
Oh, that was close, though. Yuri Giesen just covering off Blake Bottoms, who got his nose in there but ran out of space at the apex, too wide down into the chicane. It looks like it's going to stay in the hands of Yuri, who holds on to that top 10, although he's slow off the corner, but with no place to go, Blake has to lift, so we'll try again later as they come around the final turn. Just a little quick update. We found out that Bjorn Ackerman's engine blew, and that's what cost him. Also, apologies, he's German, not Dutch, so my sincerest apologies to Bjorn there. Is down to the inside. No apologies coming from Blake, who is going to slice through and take 10th.
I think that Yuri might have just been in the wrong gear trying to accelerate out of that turn 12 corner. The previous lap there really allowed Blake to close in, and then he capitalized on the front straightaway. So let's see if this, call it red and white number 11, has the pace now that he's passed Yuri there. It's always two different things, chasing a car versus leading them. You got to have a completely different mindset and approach.
To Rossi now, working on trying to catch up to 16th position of Michael Grissinger in front of him. That's Jim Matson just behind as well. Car's very kind of equidistant apart here in this sort of lower mid-pack group, all the way down to, it looks like Alan Graham, I think, in 19th. This is something like 7 cars altogether.
David Rossi really fast going in there, that turn 9 section. You got to really be careful, because if you go too fast on the entry, what it creates is a pushy loose situation. We were talking about the understeer coming out at turn 14. Well, you can have that same situation on the slow speed corners. You just go so fast going into it, you turn the wheel, and all of a sudden there's no turning going on out of those front wheels. And then at the end of the corner, it turns way too much, as Cundalis looks like he's going to be making a move on Gary Ho here into turn number 1, deep on the brakes. Pretty straightforward. Move him up into 4th.
All right, great move from Arturis. Remember, he was sitting back there in 5th for quite some time. Wonder maybe Gary Ho is struggling a bit later on in this race as well, because the track temperatures are going down, so it's not like it's overheating too much. But I feel like these are cars that could maybe change the way they handle over the course of the race.
I think it really depends on how the drivers abuse their equipment too, because if you go out there early on, yeah, the tires are pretty hard here and they last the whole race, but you can't overheat them. If you overheat them too early, well, guess what? You have to slow everything down, cool them back down to get them back into that operating temperature where they're providing the optimal grip. So yes, you just have to take care of your equipment. The more you take care of it now, the more it'll be there for you later.
Nieva's doing what he needs to do, I think, at this phase. I was just checking on the lap times. His last one was a 35.4. Hisada with a 35. Oh, wait, no, excuse me. That's not it. I thought it was a 3/10 faster, but it is 3/10 slower.
So I've been, Pangrazi around at the exit. I believe that's turn 10 right there. I would expect him just to be too happy with the right foot getting it going, but oh no, another issue just in the next corner. This is Michael Grissinger. I think, is Jim Matson involved as well? No, I think he was one of the cars that got through.
Yeah, Plumley, I think, was the other one that got caught up in that one. We'll see if we can get another look at that, but down into the chicane, I wonder if there was a bit of a miscommunication heading into there, as it is tough trying to get on the brakes just as you come over the crest. This is Mats Linden in 20th, and he's trying to see if he can catch up to Pangrazi after his little hiccup earlier. It's going to be for 19th place.
Take a look at exactly what happened here to Michael Grissinger. Yep, just as I thought. Getting too happy coming around, and then this is the second incident down here going into the brake zone. Oh, wheel-to-wheel contact. And you were mentioning that straightaway, not actually very straight, is it?
Well, I mean, appropriate, I guess, that it happens here at Zandvoort after we saw with Verstappen back at Hungary as well. They should know wheel-to-wheel contact will not go well for them, as both wound up kind of off the track. Gary Ho, in the meantime, still in 5th, but now Jack David Spickett is starting to get a little bit close, and he certainly should have seen that pass happen before. I'm sure he's licking his chops.
Yeah, a couple quick points here. You see Cundalis right on the back of Nieva, so I think that green number 4 is actually showing quite a bit of speed. And you were talking about the gap between Nieva and Kaki and Hisada. I do feel like Jorge doesn't quite have the speed that our front two have. However, Nicola Kaki's lap times have been rather inconsistent. He'll put together several really good laps, and then there will be one that's off the pace. That could just come down to lap traffic or missing a corner. That, I think, is where we've really been seeing the fluctuation in the gap is between Kaki and Nieva.
We're halfway through the race now, so there's still plenty to go, but we've already seen a bit of an evolution throughout the few laps that we have had. Maudsley getting close to the back of Yuri Giesen once again. Kurt Clapper just in front of him. We mentioned Kurt kind of fighting for the F2 championship here. Sitting in 11th, that's not too far down. That should be pretty decent points, but I think he'll win a little bit more than this.
Yeah, he's fallen down kind of 2 from where he qualified, so I think that Kurt is definitely focused forward right now. Yeah, he's got a car coming up behind him, but like you were saying, you just want to try to maximize points on any given day, and this is coming down into what is the turn 7, 8, 9 section. So I feel like this is probably the trickiest section in the entire racetrack with these cars. And it's just because you have to be so patient. You can't just go charging in and really be aggressive. It's more patience is the name of the game through these corners.
Certainly, and I double-checked, and actually Kurt is our highest-placed F2 driver right now, so he is leading that race within a race that we've got. And for those not familiar, F2, it has no difference in the cars here in the way they run it in GPL. It is all down to sort of driver licensing and who has what iRating. There's a lot of dirt that I saw on the track there, Joey,
yes.
In the chicane.
That was going to be a talking point of mine. That's through the turns 10, 11, 12 chicane there. With all of the drivers constantly going too deep into the brake zone, they run off into the gravel, and then what happens is the gravel gets kicked back onto the racetrack. Now, I don't know if it's affecting the grip level on the actual pavement or if it's just a visual effect that we're seeing. I can tell you, if this was the real world, all that gravel on the racetrack, you don't want to see it if you're a driver.
Certainly. Well, and that's the reason why in real life they've started using a sort of glue spray to keep it from dragging so much onto there. I don't think iRacing has quite implemented that yet, but also a little bit lower stakes here with safety not being as big of a problem. Matthew Maudsley still on the back of Geeson and Clapper. This is the fight for 11th.
Learn something new every day with you, Joe. A glue spray to keep the gravel in place. I like it. I'm just picturing, you know who Clifford is? The Chevy S10 out there at Indianapolis Motor Speedway? I'd like to get him like a crop duster setup out the back so we can go and spray the gravel.
No, I think it's a really clever solution. It's still...
It is.
Yeah, you don't want to go off, but it's it keeps all the hazards that come with a gravel trap kind of limited. But Yuri Geeson now on the back of Kurt Clapper, very close, but he keeps getting right there with no ability to do anything. It seems like Yuri's quicker maybe mid-corner.
And remember, Yuri was fighting with Blake Bottoms earlier. Blake has already passed Kurt Clapper, set off up the road. And Kurt just a little bit wide again, turn 14. So that just kind of goes back to the talking point. We saw Cam Porter spin earlier. We saw JDS really have understeer through there. And now Kurt Clapper as well. I just think it's a characteristic between the car, the tires, the track. You're going to have to live with it today.
One thing that they may have to live with, is they managed to get side by side here for 25th place. Isan Gin is going to be able to sneak by Torres now into that quarter century mark. We still have 26 cars out there. The only retirement has been Ackerman. And what I was trying to say is Togo Hisada should eventually start to catch them. He's getting close to the back of the field. Now, I think he's only going to get a couple cars by the time we reach them. But with this being such a twisty track, there's not really going to be any good place to catch traffic.
Even then, with 8 laps to go, he's rounding through turn 13, so coming to 7 laps to go. I'm looking at the lap times that the back of the field is putting down, and yeah, they're a few seconds slower per lap than Togo, but I mean, we're looking at what, less than 10 minutes left, or right about 10 minutes left. I'm curious if he's even going to catch those two.
Yeah, that's a good point. It might just be those last 2 cars at the very end that he'll catch, and that's just the leader too, so the rest of the field might not have to experience that as we watch Hisada up and around the slingshot of Hugen Holtz along the run through Hunsrück and Slotemacher here, and he's all the way up to about 3.6 seconds over Kaki. So yeah, he's been using that more consistent lap times that he's got, Joey, to really pull a pretty comfy margin.
And I honestly haven't watched much of Togo here this race, and now that we've got the camera on him, I can really kind of analyze him as we jump back to Nikola Kaki. I was just going to say, though, that Togo's driving style in comparison to everybody else that I'm watching, he's using all of the racetrack on entry, on apex, and exit. All of the entry curbs, all of the apex curbs, all of the exit curbs. And then he's even jumping over some of this stuff. I think it just goes to show the confidence that Togo Hisada has when he drives these Lotus 49s. I think he feels very at home. He can put the car on the racetrack wherever he wants to and is totally comfortable.
And you might not think, a first for Togo and a third for Nieva is going to mean a whole lot, but they're only 14 points apart coming in. If they finish as they are, it'll be down to 5 points difference by next round. So, yeah, Togo going from third to maybe even leading the points pretty soon if he can keep this sort of performance up. Meanwhile, let's watch with Verbruggen and Salgado in a fight for 7th as Marco's got to run. I think he's going to have to be very aggressive to make a move into Tarzan. He's not willing to, it looks like.
And I couldn't tell if it was Marco that got passed by Verbruggen, but they were just side by side a couple corners ago. So I think this has been one of these kind of fights that's been developing here for a few laps. And now you see Verbruggen kind of in the middle of the racetrack and then go up high, but he made it work where it counts on the exit, really got that launch out of there and just kind of shoots away from Salgado.
Yeah, big gap now compared to what we saw on the front straightaway. So much better in this part of the track for Kevin. 6 laps left to go. Now we're getting towards the end of things here. Can the Benelux driver go any higher than this to wrap it up? Really, we've lost some of our battles up at the top of the field. They've all spread out, except for, I'd say, maybe the battle for 4th place.
This is Kurt Clapper back here. So he's currently trying to hang on over, or I'm sorry, he's chasing Matthew Maudsley. My mistake there. So this is into the slow 8 and 9 corners here. And actually right in front of him, Yuri Geese and Blake Bottoms just up the road too. So even though it's kind of a 2x2 battle, consider them 4 cars together.
I'm pretty sure Kurt was 11th a couple laps ago, so he's lost 2 positions since we last looked at him. Something either went awry or he allowed them through. So interesting stuff here, and we'll have to wait and see whether or not he can try and gather those back up. It doesn't look like it because Yuri and Blake are starting to run away a little bit.
With these cars coming up to 5 laps to go, I mean, with everybody, the time is starting to run out. So if you're going to be making some moves, you got to be a little bit more aggressive than what you've been in the laps prior. We watched Jack David Spickett. Now, we had made the comment that Arturis had actually caught Jorge Nieva, the green car in front here, had actually caught our 3rd place car. But ever since then, Jorge has definitely taken off into the sunset. So it's up to JDS versus the green number 4.
And I think this is going to be a good one because we know Arturis is a pretty good fighter, and JDS absolutely can be feisty when he wants to. So this is going to be fun to witness. And I mean, Arturis continues to impress me. We often talk about how he's got a modified rig because he races from a wheelchair, so he's got hand controls. And I mean, this car is a handful for people that have 2 feet and 2 hands to try and control it with. This is impressive from him.
Absolutely, and he always shows up. He's always towards the front of the pack. It doesn't matter what he's racing. So I think whenever you see that Arturis Gundelis name show up, you know that he is going to be towards the pointy end of the field. But we're going to see if he can hang on over JDS here in the last handful of laps. I was making the comment that Spickett usually runs a more downforce machine. And just his driving style, look at how much the car is squirming. He's really got a grip on that wheel, making sure the car is where he wants it, but typically he's used to a little bit of air helping him out. I think that's why you see it kind of moving around so much on the racetrack.
It always amazes me when I see drivers switch between the 79 and the 49, because you'd think, oh, they're both Lotuses and they're not too many years apart, so surely you would get more crossover. But no, they're so dramatically different from one another. Anybody who can be fast in both is definitely a skilled driver.
Just the way technology was advancing in the auto industry, especially the racing industry back then. Yeah, we finally got our heads wrapped around aerodynamics as this is a battle a little bit further back. This is Mats Linden currently. He's chasing Roberto Pengrazi, Michael Grissinger up the road. This is all for what would be 20th, 19th, 18th place here with a handful of laps remaining.
Remember Grissinger on a bit of a recovery after he had his problem earlier on. He's actually back where he started this race, interestingly, so not doing too badly. No gain, no loss. The Scandinavian of Mats Linden sees both Pengrazi and Grissinger just in front of him as they swing into Sheavelock. This is such a swift corner, that one, with its own share of banking before things flatten out. Now into Masters. I always thought this was a difficult one, as that curved braking zone, and illustrated right there. Oh, and they're not going to be able to get through. Pengrazi spins and Linden can't avoid.
Yeah, just contact between the two. That was perfectly set up by yourself, Joe, as JDS makes the move into turn number 1 on Arturis Gundelis. This has been going on here for a few laps, and I can tell you that Arturis ran wide in the turn 11 and 12 chicane, put 2 wheels in the gravel that previous lap, allowed Jack David Spickett to close it up even more. And unfortunately, now with that silver car in front, Arturis is going to have to reel him in pretty quick if he wants that 4th place.
Yeah, he's going to have to do what he can here with the speed in these final 3 laps. Also, as he is wont to do, we've got Mick Claridge kind of giving me info in the background. Pointed out something I forgot. Topi Kortaniemi won the 49 and 79 private championships that we run here on the channel in the same season. I think he might be the only person to ever do that, honestly.
And just to kind of explain that a little bit, it's so drastically different between the 2 cars. You're going to race one on Saturday, and the next one the immediate next day on a different racetrack. So yeah, I would say patience, 1, to race the 49s, aggression, 2, to race the 79s, and then just your brain has to be able to wrap around both of them and separate the two.
2 laps to go for Togo Hisada, trying to add to his tally of wins. And I believe it'll be his first this season that he's won. He's had some mistakes when there was definitely wins on hand. So he'll be trying to finally get over that hump here. Also, for fans of Mats Linden, the damage, unfortunately, was a little too much. He is coming back out on track, but he had to come in and get the car repaired because he had the black and orange flag.
You were talking about the points championship, and I think that this round right here, specifically for Togo Hisada, is we've got some intense action on the front straightaway. Yuri Giesen is the number 10 car. He's defensive. Matthew Maudsley is trying to get around him, and then also Kurt Clapper is involved in this battle. So these cars have 2 laps remaining, but back to my point about Togo Hisada, the first half of the season has been rather rough for him. If he can claim a win here, especially if it's the first this season, it might be the turning point for him.
Definitely could clean things up and still be in with a shout. Because like I said, he's going to move himself up to second within 5 points of the lead. We were watching on board with Maudsley, but now that we've jumped off to the TV cameras, you can see how close Kurt Clapper is. I was kind of worried with Matthew trying to see if he could poke his nose on Yuri. I thought that maybe that was going to open the door for Kurt to make it a 3-wide situation.
Rounding through turn number 9, come up to the slow turn number 10. I believe that Togo Hisada is just taking the white flag, so he will have 1 lap remaining. These cars that we're watching here, they still got to get around to start finish, so about another lap and a half here to settle the battle.
Isan Gin has been side by side with Torres plenty of times already this race. This time he's going to come out ahead with 24th. Linden got put a lap down, so they've jumped up a little bit there in the process. And there is Togo. He is indeed catching them now.
Remember, we had talked about if he was going to see the lap traffic. Well, here he is right on the back of the pack on the final lap with about half a lap remaining. We'll see if he decides to be patient. He does have 5 seconds over Cocky.
Yeah, I think he can afford to try and take his time here. Just try and be smart about it and overtake these cars. And a lot of these drivers are very experienced in this series, so they know when the leaders come up to kind of give them their own space, especially if they don't have a fight to fight. But these 3 are in a battle for position, so they won't want to exactly give it up too quickly. Togo Hisada with 2 more corners to go. He's just got to round his way through Kumho and Lyondike, and he's home free to finally get the first victory of this season for himself. Togo Hisada bouncing back and winning here at Zandvoort. Weaves in celebration.
And I'm pretty sure, he missed it by 4/100ths of a second, the fast lap there at the end. Nikola Cocky is going to finish in 2nd place on the podium, and here comes Jorge Nieva, who is finally able to stretch out that gap between this battle of JDS and Arturus that finished 4th and 5th.
Amazing stuff. By our calculations, it is now 5 points between the pair of them. Back to Maudsley. He's right on top of Giesen. They'll swing through Kumho themselves unless he gets a really good launch, which he does. This has the potential to swap positions by the line, but it's going to be tight, and no, it's not there from Maudsley. Yuri hangs on for 11th.
Just that front straightaway isn't quite long enough, is it? You need to get the extra oars out there and really start rowing if you want that slipstream.
Yeah, it was a 1/10 of a second between them at the line, so it was mighty close. I'm sure he's glad that he was able to get the launch that he did in the end. Tobias Harnvey and Willerhausen, haven't talked about them a whole lot here. This is 2 drivers battling from Club Scandinavia. And I think this is going to stay in the hands of Thomas there to get 21st. And all but 1 driver still running. And all but 1 driver that we're still running on the lead lap as well. So great stuff. What about this 3-way fight? Looks like Van Dorn, Ginn, and Torres is going to be your order for the final 3 Well, we quite literally, Joey, had battles up and down the field all the way to the end.
And what I loved seeing as we get our results here is that all but 2 cars that finished the race were on the lead lap. Nobody got lapped.
Let's take a look at our results here. Hisada, as we said, taking the win by about 5 seconds over Kaki, and then it's another 6 seconds down to Nieva, finishing P3. Jack David Spickett back and forth was followed by Arturas Kundalis. They gave us a great battle all race long. Gary Ho was 6th behind them, ahead of Kevin Verbruggen. Then you've got Marco Salgado finishing in 8th, losing 3 positions in this one. 9th for Connor Tolman was then followed by Blake Bottoms, who rounds out your top 10.
In 11th, we have Yuri Giesen, who had a very action-packed race here at Zandvoort. Matthew Maudsley will finish in 12th with Kurt Clapper in 13th. David Rossi finishing 14th. Robert Plumley here in 15th. And I believe that Robert was our biggest mover, plus 5 positions there. Jim Matson also plus 5 positions to finish in 16th. Alan Graham 17th. Michael Grissinger 18th. Roberto Pangrazzi 19th. And Cam Porter, after the little mishap on the opening lap, finishes in 20th.
Villerhausen was 21st as Harnvey was 22nd. And you've got Van Dorn in a P23, Isan again in 24th, and Torres 25th. Mats Linden, like I said, the only one put a lap down. And 26 Ackerman was a DNF for today. Sounds like we got some highlights from this race. We'll take a look at them as we chat with Nikola Kaki and see how he felt trying to chase down Togo Hisada. Nikola, it seemed you didn't quite have the legs for Togo today. Did you expect that, or did you think you could keep a little bit tighter to his gearbox?
Yeah, I was expecting that. Togo had like the last, 3 or even 4 races, which have very poor results. So this strike could not last that long, and I think this had to end sooner or later. And I thought from the start he was going to win this, even when I saw his pole lap. I kind of have not optimal qualifying myself, but when I saw the kind of speed, I knew that I was in trouble.
Yeah, always going to be difficult. Now, we had an interesting situation, though, because Nieva did not get a good start and he fell back. If it weren't for that, do you feel like he would have been any sort of threat for that P2 for you, or do you think Jorge would have been no problem?
No. I think it was without this hiccup, it could have been like a very big trouble for me. Just like watching to the relative, it looked like we were pretty similar on pace. Maybe he had an off track or a solo down, I think, but I think we were pretty matched. So if he had a better start, I will have fought for second with him for sure.
Now, this is a pretty tight and technical track, but next time out, we're going to Oran Park. How do you feel about that place? Because, my goodness, it's tiny and there's really little place to get on the throttle.
Honestly, there are too many parks in the circuit in the USA, so I get confused a lot by which one it is. So,
well, this one's an Australian one, actually.
Oh, in Australia. I have no clue anyway.
Okay.
but I kind of like the smaller, tightest track, and I think I raced there many years ago, maybe, but I will not have to learn the track from scratch. This is a good point for me, and this is even Zandvoort. It's not that big. It's not that tight as a track width, because it's kind of the medium size, but it's very technical. So I guess the Oran Park will be more or less the same.
Well, best of luck when you head there, and again, congratulations on a podium.
Thank you, guys. See you there.
as Nicola Kaki finishing P2 behind Togo Hisada. I believe Joey has caught up with today's winner.
Togo Hisada, congratulations on the first win of the season here. How does it feel?
Just feel fantastic. My last victory was in the Motegi Oval, just over the six months ago. So I just long way to, very long way to take a victory today. But yeah, just kind of I lose the momentum to victory in past 2 seasons. So finally breaking my my bad momentum, and finally I get the victory. So just very happy. Yeah.
Well, it was a little bit of a lonely race for you up front. Didn't really have anybody to actually race up there. Did you enjoy that? Does your brain say, okay, let's just set fast lap after fast lap? Or are you thinking about the championship? What is going through your head in one of these races?
Actually, I I just looking the next apex after the apex, and I just special many how should I say, but in the deep concentration, especially today. Yeah, so I I cannot believe that just just control the car.
I get that.
Just yes, sometimes we are having much deeper concentration, and today is the day, I think. Just it's completely just unbelievable feeling.
I understand what you're saying, because if you lose concentration, all of a sudden the race could slip away just that fast, especially at a racetrack like this. Looking at the championship, this could be a huge turning point for you, not just the race win today, but now you're in contention for the lead. Is this kind of the push that you needed to really wrap up the rest of this year?
I hope so. But the next Olan Park and the Willow Springs, it's just I'm not good at these tracks, so that's just gonna be very hard last 5 weeks for me. So that I just keep pushing, keep practicing, and hope to win the championship again.
Well, Togo, even though they might be difficult tracks for you, I know that you are going to show up and be fast every single week. Congratulations on the win today, and thank you for coming out and racing with us.
Thank you.
That was Togo Hisada, your winner today, driving that white and red number 3.
The man who leads him in the points is Jorge Nieva, but he finished 3rd today. Jorge, let's start at the beginning of the race, because you began from 3rd, but then you fell to 5th almost immediately. What happened at the start?
I still don't know what happened. I think my first gear was too short, and even though I had the brakes at 100%, I somehow managed to start a wheel spin without the car moving, and I leave the throttle, but when the race started, my rears were toasted, so I couldn't start like I would like to.
So it's just everything compounding on top of each other, it sounds like. Nicola up ahead of you said that he felt like if it wasn't for that, you probably would have been putting pressure on him for that 2nd place. Do you agree?
I think maybe I could have managed to follow him, but with that many mistakes I made through the race, it was a no. I didn't deserve to fight for that position.
This also brings the championship down to, from what we can tell, 5 points between you and Togo Hisada. Are you keeping your eye on him?
he will win this season. I'm almost sure I will miss a couple of races more, I think. So this season is for him or Seb if he can manage to overtake him.
That's unfortunate to hear, but I mean, you never say never. Strange things can happen out there. Still, I mean, congratulations on coming back and at least claiming a podium today.
Thank you, Joe.
It was Jorge Nieva there finishing third. Joey, I think an old favorite of ours has shown up, Cam Porter, with an incident at the start. You want to chat with him?
Yeah, I think we already got him in the broadcast booth, so we can't turn him away now. Cam, congratulations on the 20th place.
Thanks. That's a great result. Not really, but yeah, obviously I struggled a little bit today. I'm going to blame that first lap spin on cold tires. I even short shifted to fourth coming out of that corner from spinning, and I still spun. Just trying a little too hard, I guess, and on cold tires. So once that happened, I was down in last. I made up a few positions, but I couldn't. I just didn't have the pace to catch up with the mid-pack fellas that I normally race with.
Well, my question for you then, because we saw you struggle with turn 14 on the opening lap, did that stay with the car the entire race? Was there just a lot of understeer going through that corner? What was the main issue there?
I don't know. I think because it's a little bit bumpy and the track falls away once you come out of the banking, the car gets light, and I think that's probably just what happened. I didn't, it was too hard on the throttle and got light on cold tires and just spun it out. Luckily, I didn't collect anyone in that spin. Made sure I held my brakes to avoid spinning into someone's path. But yeah, after that, my heart kind of just wasn't in it. And then, like Hugo said, you kind of lose concentration when you're out there on your own and thinking about other things. And then a couple of fellas ahead of me had some trouble. And then once I got them in my sights, I started to set my best laps because then I have something to chase. So being close to other drivers tends to bring out the better driver in me.
Funny how that works. Everybody wants to go play at recess, and when your friends are on the playground too, it always is that much better. So Cam, I know it wasn't the race you were looking for today, but congrats on the 20th, and thank you for coming out and racing with us every single week.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate everything you do. So we'll see you again next week.
That was Cam Porter driving that red and checkerboard number 13.
Which is going to wrap us up with a big thank you, of course, to the team today, Daniel, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Like we were mentioning, it's off to Oran Park next time. That'll be Saturday, August 3rd at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. But be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here, because up next, it's the IMSA Vintage Series, and that'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.